Hello, everybody. This is Chase from the Patreon Chronicles. And today we are doing the second part of our primary videos, and that is the Democratic primary. I will say, starting off, I know a lot less about Democratic, like no names, than I do Republicans. So people like, I'm not going to be able to elaborate a lot on people like Chris Murphy, Gina Raimondo, Jimmy Raskin, etc. But we're going to start off with each member, go through them. There's a bigger list this time, but we will see. Believe, yes, I was about to check. Kamala Harris is on there, but AOC is also on there, and AOC is an instant contender. If this were 4 years ago, I don't know if she was able to run yet, but if she were exploring it, I would tell her no, simply for the fact that her viewpoints, and she was seen as too left to be running. But she's kind of moderated herself a little bit. She's not a moderate by any means, but she's kind of pulled herself to the middle in a way. She's got the energy. She's got a solid background. She knows people. She's got great connections. She's already been touring the country with Bernie Sanders. I could definitely see her running. I think she could get through the primary fairly easy, and a general election she could do very, very well in, especially considering who the Republican would be. Amy Klobuchar I think she's popular within the Democratic Party. I just don't know about her running. Based off of what we've seen in 2020, I'm going to put her in They Gotta Change Everything. She doesn't have really the charisma. She's not a bad debater. Could definitely see her being a vice presidential pick. Very popular within the Senate, very popular in Minnesota, some Midwestern appeal. The thing with her is just she's not popular in a primary. She had a really tough time in 2020. Performed usually out of the top 5 in polling. Again, I think she's done more to kind of put herself out there in recency, but I think she still needs to do a lot more. Andrew Cuomo, who is currently running for mayor, I can't discount that he would not run, but he would not win. He's just got way too much baggage on his plate. Wasn't a popular governor. He's not going to win the mayoral election. That kind of seems like his last hurrah at keeping himself involved in politics. Democrats cannot nominate someone with a lot of baggage or scandals, and doing so for Andrew Cuomo would just don't think he'd do bad in a primary, but a general election he would just fall apart. Andy Bashir is an interesting one. I'm in between putting him in I like them and underdog. I think I'll put him in underdog. Actually, I'll put him in I like him. He has that moderate appeal. He's the governor of Kentucky, very Republican state, so he has appeal with Republicans and independents. Does that carry him through a primary? I don't think so. Would he be a great candidate in the general election? Yes, especially, depending on who the nominee is for the Republican Party. So I could definitely see Andy Bashir being a solid candidate. I don't know how well he'd get through a primary. We got another one who could be a vice presidential pick. Any of these people who are in a contender is not going to pick a contender to be vice president. It just rarely happens. Anyone in this I like them to underdog tier has a very big chance of being chosen to be vice president, and it's Andy Bashir is kind of definitely on the top of that list. Chris Murphy is the senator from Connecticut. I don't know much about Chris Murphy policy-wise. I'm going to put him in who because of that. I hate that his picture is not correct on every place you find him in. So let's get him an actual picture that's not a good one. He doesn't look right. Chris Murphy, though, I mean, he's got a senator I could like Secretary Chris Murphy sounds like something. President Chris Murphy. Yeah. Cory Booker. Cory Booker's an underdog. He performed well in 2020. Kind of fell out, but has said a lot more to make himself well known. He's really pushed himself. He did the whole thing where I think he did like a 26-hour speech on the floor. That was seen as a little bit too much for some people, so it might come back to bite him with independence. But as for Democrats, he's really seen as standing up for what he believed in. I could definitely see him doing well in a primary. Again, another person who could be a vice presidential pick if not nominated. And he'll probably get those comparisons to Obama. We'll see how those go. Dean Phillips, so he ran in 2024 against Joe Biden. I'm going to put him. He's a former representative from Minnesota. Was endorsed by a lot of like independent or like moderate Democrats who just want to change. I really don't think he has a chance of winning. Not enough name recognition. I don't also think he said he's not running. So I'm gonna put him in not winning. No, if he says he's not running, go ahead and put him in not. Yeah, he's not gonna run, and I don't think he would be even close to winning if he did. Lisa Slotkin is the newly elected senator from Michigan. I don't think she's going to run. I think she's also said she's not going to run. When you have bigger names say, "Oh, I'm not running," you can't just take it as seriously. But someone like Lisa Slotkin saying, "I'm not going to run," I'm fairly sure she means that. And she's new to the Senate, probably gonna stick there for a little bit. We could see about 2028. But as for 2032, as for 2028, I don't think she's gonna do much. Elizabeth Warren. Ooh, I don't know what to do with Elizabeth Warren. I could definitely see her running again. I can't put her in underdog. I can't put, like, they gotta change everything. She performed well in the primaries. Sorry. Yes, she's an underdog to kind of get to the primary. I would definitely have someone like Amy Schumer or Cory Booker, as a matter of fact, over Elizabeth Warren if I was a betting man. She ran in 2016, ran in 2020. When she didn't run in 2016, she ran in 2020. Did she run? I think she might have ran. I don't remember. No, she didn't run in 2016. She ran in 2020 though. Was fairly popular. Always was third behind Biden and Sanders. Both of them off. Could she do better now? Not sure. She's kept up with politics, still involved, so we could see. So I guess I'll put her in underdog. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is an obvious contender. He's the most popular person within the Democratic Party who's not ran for president. People know who he is. I think he would coast through a primary. General election would be tough for Gavin Newsom than it would for maybe the AOC. Considering just like California has a very bad reputation, and a lot of that's being put onto Gavin Newsom. Also the gerrymandering stuff, the same thing we talked about Greg Abbott last video. But yeah, I'll put him in contender. He's the betting odd favorite to be the nominee. Gina Raimondo was the secretary of, I cannot tell you. And before that, she was a governor of Rhode Island. I don't know enough about her to make really a projection on Gina Raimondo. I think she's said that she's interested in running. I just don't know enough about her to really put her anywhere else. Gretchen Whitmer is the current governor of Michigan. She said she isn't running. She's one of those people who is well known within the party that she could switch it up if she wanted to. I'm gonna put her in. I like them. Not enough not as much baggage as Gavin Newsom, but she's also not as well known as Gavin Newsom. It would really just depend again on what she's running on, how her debate is, and if she can kind of drag herself through a probably really tough primary. If she can get to the general election, I think she would be in most, if for like a good handful of the nominees that the Republicans could choose. I think Gretchen Whitmer would be the favorite. But the primary is going to be hard for her. It's very Andy Bashir-ish in that sense. So I guess we'll see on that. Next is Jamie Raskin, who was a representative from Maryland, I believe. I don't know much about Jamie. He's in the media a lot. I just don't know much about him policy-wise to really make a projection. Janet Mills is not winning. So she is the governor of Maine, and if she does run for anything, it'll be for Senate. But she is highly unpopular within her own state. She doesn't have any charisma. People don't seem to really like her. I don't think she would win. We'll see if she runs for Senate. If she does well in the Senate, maybe. But then again, she could also just be busy with that. So I just don't see her winning if she does decide to run. Jared Polis is the governor, outgoing governor, about to be outgoing governor, of Colorado. I will put him in the same bar as Amy Klobuchar for a different reason, though. I think people know who Jared Polis is. I think he's relatively popular within the own party. I just don't know how his charisma is. I think people will look at Colorado, especially independents, and see not that there's like a lot of crime or anything, but that there is just a lot of, it's very more left-wing in the sense of being more, it's one of the few states that keeps going more left and left in the presidential level. I don't know if Jared Polis would be a strong candidate in the general election. So he's got some things to change. See. Jasmine Crockett is the representative. I believe she's in Texas. I get her and someone else mixed up quite a bit. She is, well, just like where they represent. I would put her in underdog. I think she's still a little bit too young. I think if she sat on like what she's doing a little bit more, she's obviously well known. Again, could be a great vice presidential pick if it's like a Gavin Newsom, like a white man. That would probably also come back to bite them though if they were like, yeah, we only nominate women to be vice president. Like, yeah, it would kind of come back. I'm in a way, but I'll put her in underdog. JP Pritzker, I don't know why he has so much hype around him. I don't know, because he's the governor of Illinois. Could he win? I don't really even think he could win. I don't think he's popular enough within Democrats. Chicago is a mess, and that's a lot under his rule. He's literally got parts of his state trying to leave his state and join neighboring states. That'll come back to him. It's just not popular. Within the people that he's going to need to be president, I think he wouldn't do. I think he would easily probably run. Don't think he would have such a hard time going through a primary, and he would have an awful time in a general election. John Fetterman's just not going to run. I think he also said he's not running. He's kind of distancing himself from the Democrats. I think if he ran, he would be a great candidate for moderates. I think moderates seem to really like him. He would need to change some things. He would need to actually start wearing a suit and like be more professional. But I just don't think he's going to run. I think he said he's not going to run. I can kind of take his word on that. He seems to be fairly straightforward in what he believes in. John Ossoff is interesting. If he wins re-election in the state of Georgia, he's an I like them. If he loses, I said they gotta change everything. So I'll put him in underdog, I guess, to kind of split the difference. Um, Charismatic younger guy, fairly just like democratic. Doesn't really falter much in his policy. He's in a swing state. He's popular within that swing state. We'll see how he does in the general election in the Senate. But as of right now, I think he's an underdog. I think he is very capable of winning a general election for sure. A primary would be a lot more difficult. I think he would do well in debates. If he loses his Senate seat, he's going to be a secretary. The Democrats win. I can probably bet money on that. Jon Stewart is. I don't. So we have a list of like celebrities here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do them real quick. So let's see. Mark Cuban, Stephen A. Smith, and Taylor Swift. That's all celebrity-wise. I think these each fall on a kind of a different level. Like LeBron is easily the top choice. I'm just kidding. LeBron is. I don't think he would even run. He is out of all of these the least likely to run and most likely to even win. Jon Stewart is at least more known within the Democratic Party. Very heavy Trump critic. I would put him in. I would put him in maybe they gotta change everything, but I don't think he has to change everything. Underdog, I guess. He's probably an underdog, to be honest. He was obviously a good speaker. He's his job for his entire life. But I don't know how well he would do. Mark Cuban, I think, would do worse. He would have to change a lot just in his attitude. Stephen A. Smith is not going to win. I don't know why people think he would be a good candidate. He's just not going to win. And Taylor Swift. See, if Taylor Swift runs and becomes more politically involved, that will be the detriment to the Republican because she's just popular. She can drive out votes for people who don't normally vote, and she's got no policy. But Trump didn't in 2016. I don't think she ends up running. If she says I'm running, she's probably up here. As unfortunate, like as funny as it is, I just don't think she's going to run. I think she's going to enjoy touring and her marriage a little bit longer. Josh Green is the governor of Hawaii. I think he said he's interested in running. Don't know enough about him to really make a case for him. So I'll put him in who. Josh Shapiro is a contender, someone that Kamala Harris should have picked to be vice president. Would have done a lot better than Tim Walz did. And in that case, Josh Shapiro, he will have a tough primary, but if he gets through a primary, the general election is his. That is what I kind of believe in. No matter who the Republicans nominate. I just don't know how well he'd get through a primary. I think he's too like other candidates like Bashir Ossoff who could run. But out of all those, he is the most known, most popular. Everyone seems to like him. Independents like him. Republicans like him for the most part. So he's definitely a top contender. Jeff Stein is the current governor of North Carolina. I don't know enough to make about his policy. He's just he's the new governor. So I'll put him in who. We'll get to Roy Cooper later, I believe. Yep, okay. Leon Castro was a representative from Florida, I believe, or Texas. Texas seems more right. Ran in 2020. Didn't do well. I know he was appointed to a spot on the cabinet, but I just thought he wouldn't win. Kamala's got to change everything. She lost by a lot in 2024. I don't know why people are like, yo, let's sell her up again. She's cooked. She's just cooked. That's it. The easiest way Kamala would lose is that if the Republicans know that Kamala's going to be the Democrat nominee, they just throw Tulsi Gabbard up somewhere. And they just debate, and Tulsi Gabbard will again ruin Kamala Harris' chances of becoming president. Kathy Hochul is the governor of New York. Not popular. Not winning. Easiest. Katie Hobbs is the governor of Arizona. Actually popular. I think she's an underdog. I don't know a lot about her. In the sense of like policy. I know she's a good speaker. We'll see how 2028 treats. Well, 2026. I don't know if she's up for governor. The governor. I think she is. In 2026, she's up for re-election for governor. Because I think if it was up in 20. No, was she up? No, that was Senate. I believe was up in 2024. I think Katie Hobbs is up for gubernatorial in 2026. I think she is probably going to win that in a state that, was Democratic for a year, really. We'll see if she can win re-election. She'd be a very strong candidate in 2028. Mark Kelly is the senator from Arizona from Astronaut. Like, I don't want to fill up the underdog slot. I don't really like him to run, though. I guess I'll put him in underdog. Again, Democratic incumbent senator. And I'll put Ruben Gallego there for the same reason. Just the Democratic trifecta in Arizona, who are all kind of decent debaters, fairly popular in Democratic states. They're not Democrat. They're Democrat incumbents in Republican states. Also, I apologize that if you can hear the lawnmower outside. Of course, when it is right when I'm doing a video. But Ruben Gallego, Mark Kelly, Katie Hobbs all kind of fall in that underdog category that they could be. I think they all kind of have the same, they would have a tough time through the primary and they would have an okay chance at the presidency. We'll see. Maura Healey is the governor, I believe, of Massachusetts. I don't know much about Maura Healey. I think she's like average in popularity. I'll put her in who? Don't know enough. Michael Bennet, and for President 2020, current senator of Colorado, running for governor. Don't think he's going to end up running president. He's running for governor. I think he's going to be doing that. Michelle Lujan Grisham is, I believe, a senator from New Mexico. I am going to put her in who I don't know anything about her. Is anyone else I want to put in who? Let's kind of work our way up. Tom Suozzi, I think, is the representative from New York. I think. We'll put him in who. I know Ron Emanuel's the former mayor of Chicago. Don't think people know Ron Emanuel. As far as I know, I only know him because of this and like looking at stuff. So I'll put it in who as well. And then I think people know who Rokana is. But we'll kind of go from here. Is there anyone here that I think will not run? I think all these people will have a chance at running. So who's not winning out of these options? I could tell you Tony Evers is not winning. He's decently popular within Wisconsin, but he's retiring. I don't think he's retiring to seek the presidency. I think he's too old. I think he'd do well in the Midwest, but I don't know how well he would do in a primary. So I'll put him in not winning. Bill Murphy's the same way. He'll be the outgoing governor of New Jersey. I just don't think he's winning. Between you and me, he's kind of weird looking. I think that would actually come back to bite him. No offense to him. I'm sure he's a great guy, but it's American politics. Um, Everyone else here has a chance, I think, up past this. So I think Tim Walz is gonna go with Kamala, and they gotta change everything. Tim Walz had a terrible debate against J.D. Vance. He was not great on the campaign trail. He's not been great since. He's kind of distanced himself from Kamala Harris. He was not the right pick for vice president at all. He's not fairly popular within his own state even. So we'll see. But he would have to change a lot. Rest of these guys, like I feel personally that I don't think Roy Cooper would run. He's running for Senate. I think he'll be too busy doing that. I don't think he's gonna do 2-term Senate. And here, look, I'm running for president. He could. I don't think he will. So I'm gonna put him in not running. Let's see. Raphael Warnock is a put him in underdog. Senator from Georgia. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like both Wes Moore and Cory Booker are more popular than him, more well known than him, are better speakers than him. But he's got a chance. I don't feel right putting him on the same level as Jon Ossoff, though. I guess I'll move Jon Ossoff up. I'm gonna move Cory Booker up as well, in that sense. And I feel like Raphael Warnock can sit here. And that makes sense to me. Ro Khanna will also go into underdogs. He's fairly well known for just being a representative. I believe he's out of California. That could be definitely wrong on that. But because again, I get representatives districts mixed up all the time, but I believe he's in California. He's an underdog. Again, definitely more likely to be a secretary vice presidential pick. That leaves us with two fairly big names, Wes Moore and Pete Buttigieg. I think Wes Moore goes in. He's almost a contender for me. I'm gonna put him in the top of I like them. Definitely could move up in the coming months even. I think he just needs to do a little bit more. I think he would coast through a primary. General election might be a little difficult. Not in a good state to really run. Besides maybe in Pennsylvania, you'd have some kind of like fall. But you'd want someone more either. Because AOC can kind of get away with it. She's super well known. Gavin Newsom, again, super well known. And Josh Shapiro, maybe not as well known as these two, but comes from a Midwestern state. Wes Moore is not as well known as these two. That's probably well known as Josh Shapiro, but does not come from that Midwestern state. It's kind of what hurts Wes Moore. Someone who does come from a Midwestern state is Secretary Pete Buttigieg, former Secretary of Transportation, Mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Go Hoosiers. Well, go the people in Indiana Hoosiers, and go IU Hoosiers. But he would do super well. I think he's planning on running. I think he said that he's like exploring running. He's going to run, and he will he's one of the few people in contenders that could be chosen to be vice president. But who's the top choice? I don't think it's Gavin Newsom. Just the baggage with everything in California hurts him too bad. Josh Shapiro, I think, also not a top choice considering just name recognition. So it falls between AOC and Pete Buttigieg. I think AOC is honestly the top choice. I think Republicans have a lot of respect for AOC. That she stays on, like, she puts her foot on the ground and she like firmly believes in what she believes in. I think that really will benefit her, but we'll see. Just don't know how well. I think she'd do really well in a primary. She would do fairly well in a general election. She could drive out young voters, which is what killed Kamala Harris. She could drive out some young voters, but Trump somehow figured out how to drive in a more in the sense of like of normal voters, and that's what won him the election in 2024. I'm sorry. AOC could do that for Democrats, and I think she is easily, in my opinion, the top choice. So that does it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's been a while again, but we're back to hopefully daily content. And yeah, if you guys have any disagreements, please let me know. Just leave a comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.